What's up, folks? If you are watching this video, Big Slade is going to have a discussion, spoiler discussion. I know what you did last summer, 2025. I'm going to give you opportunity to go watch the non-spoiler review of my channel if you don't want all the goods, especially if you did not see this movie. So I will do the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm about to get into this spoiler discussion. Um, like I said, if you don't want the goods and you haven't not seen this movie, go re- detour, redirect yourselves back to the non-spoiler review, and you can post your comments down below after watching this film. Um, if you saw the movie already, or if you want to be spoiled and you want the goods, then continue watching. If you're new to the channel, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be updated on more content. And for my returning subscribers, thanks for coming back. I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all enjoying the content as well. Give your boy that like. Now we're gonna get into it. Um, the movie opens up with and I took notes because I ain't trying to butcher nobody's names. I got a habit of butchering people's names, but let me get into it. The movie opens up with Ava, who's like the main character. She goes to Southport, and she's attending Danica's engagement party, um, with her present, um, with she's at this engagement party with Milo, who's her ex-boyfriend, and Danica and Teddy are they're engaged and they're celebrating with with people in attendance. Um, After the event, they you meet Stevie, and it's revealed that they were friends in the past. They mentioned that Stevie has, how they just mumble and utter the rumor or whatever. They talk about her. Yeah, that's that girl. That's that girl. Yeah, they were friends in the past, and it's revealed that Stevie had a troubled past, had a troubled upbringing, some family issues, which led her to drug addiction. Which she got hooked on drugs real bad, and she winds up in rehab. But they meet her as the people are leaving this party, and she's packing up bottles, packing up this truck with this vehicle, cleaning up with this other female, and they decide to invite Stevie along with them to go look at some fireworks. They decide to bring her along and try to reconnect. They're all grown now, and they invite her along for to the fireworks. And her coworker tells her to go ahead and go with them. I got the rest of the cleanup. Um, so they're riding on this road, and it's cliffside. It's a callback or reminiscent to the previous installment of the first I Know What You Did Last Summer, the '97 version. They're riding along this road, and it's one of those funny looking roads that are alongside this cliffside. And they decide to stop. They figure it's a good idea to watch the fireworks from the height from where they are. And there's always one. They're on the road and they're acting silly, and there's so Teddy decides that stand in the street, and it's one of those little edgy moments, and you're sitting there waiting for it. Um, so prior to them pulling over, they're all fooling around, messing around, and Teddy decides to scare Danica while as she's driving, and it's a little scare. Like I said, it's a callback to the first movie. If you're familiar with the first movie, spoiler to the first movie, um, a person actually gets hit on the road. So, but this was just a little scare. He's messing with her, and there's nothing on the road. They continue to drive and decide to pull over to get a great view of the fireworks. So now back to Teddy being silly, standing in the middle of the street, and everybody's like, get your drunk behind out of the street. Like Teddy's drunk, he's being real stupid. And the first car comes, and Milo saves him from getting hit by the first vehicle. They get off the road. Teddy continues to stand in the middle of the street, playing around, acting stupid. And the next vehicle sees him and immediately swerves off the road through this guardrail, and it's just hanging off the cliff. This Dodge Ram, this big, stupid dually pickup truck, it's just balanced on the cliff, just rocking. And the group makes an attempt to save him, to save the driver from falling over the cliff. They tried to hang on the tailgate to balance it out while Teddy and Milo make an attempt to open up the doors to get the driver out. The driver, you just see his arm coming through the window to grab Teddy, but then Teddy takes off his jacket. The weight of the truck gives in, and the truck goes over the cliff. So now they're all sitting there on the side of the road, trying to, the girls, the females, they get hysterical, and they're like, hey, we should go down and help them. Stevie and Ava, they're like, we need to go down there and help them. And it's realistically, it's a steep cliff. Like nobody has the equipment to rappel off of this rocky ass cliff to go all the way down to the depths to get this truck that's just flipped over from bird's eye view from where they are. It's nearly impossible. And but Teddy is like, nah, we can't, we ain't doing it. I'm gonna call the police. Ava suggests to call the police. We need to stay and do something. We at least need to try to do something, as it is implied by Stevie and Ava. We got to try to do something. But Teddy is like, nah. So he said he's gonna call the police, but you're left to believe that he's not going to do it because he walks away from them. But however, the next scene shows them leaving the area, and the police are passing them by. They pass each other by, a couple of squad cars, and they're going down the road. And apparently, Teddy, the group, they pass this intersection that leads to the police station, and they keep going down the road. And there's a discussion between Ava and Teddy. They're like, we need to go to the police to file a report and stand there and just, provide details as to what happened. But Teddy insists, like, nah, we gonna keep it moving. We gonna keep going. And they continue down the road, and they come to an agreement that they're not gonna have any discussions, as just like the first movie. They make a pact. They swear to secrecy that they gonna take this to the grave. They're gonna take this little, they're not gonna talk to nobody about this incident. They're gonna take this incident to the grave with them. And Teddy uses his dad, because his dad is like this. His dad's character, Grant, he's like this. He's got a position. He's in a position of power. Um, and if you saw this movie, post a comment down below. I'm not sure if he was like the mayor, but he has a position of power where he's like this politician or whatever his position is. Once again, if you saw the movie, share your comment down below. But Teddy's dad, Grant, he's like this powerful dude in Southport. He, whatever his position is, with the police. And Teddy takes advantage of that and uses his dad to protect him, covering him up. And his dad goes along with it to protect his reputation because Teddy is his son. I mean, you got the connection. You feel where I'm going with it. So a year later, Ava is it's a bathroom scene, and Ava is making out with a female in a bathroom, and she's out of the bathroom, and which is revealed that they're at an airport, and Milo arrives to pick her up from the airport. Ava is with Tyler. Tyler was the other female that she was making out with in the bathroom, and Tyler hitches a ride. Ava gives Tyler a ride to Southport. Tyler is revealed that she's a podcaster, and she wants to go to Southport to do a story on the Southport massacre that occurred in '97. And she wants to go there, do some research, get some information, and use it for her show. She does a little bit of flirting with Milo. So this is a year later. Milo picks up Ava, and Tyler gets a ride to Southport. At this point, Ava and Milo have reconnected, so now they're a couple. They're in a relationship now, and they're going to Danica's engagement party. Danica has another engagement party, and she has a new fiance who is Wyatt. The actor that plays Wyatt, I can't remember this guy's name, but he played Superboy in the Titan TV series. If for all my nerds, my comic book fans, especially my Superman fans, you if you're familiar with that series, then you'll recognize the face. He played Superboy, and there was the real Labrador Crypto. But back to the subject. So Wyatt is the new fiance. Um, and she starts, Wyatt shows up. He wasn't supposed to be there. He makes a surprise appearance. He shows up, and Danica's, opening up the gifts. People are playing around and stuff, and they catch up to, as she's opening gifts, she opens up a card, and she finds the note. I know what you did last summer. And she starts freaking out. She tries to keep the poker face, and everything's all right. She tries to reassure everybody she's good, she's cool. But so they hook up later on in the kitchen while people are still at the event. And Milo, Stevie, and Danica and Ava, they all collaborate on, who would do something like this, right? And Danica accuses Teddy because shortly after the event, they had a falling out, and she makes it known that Teddy, his behavior, his attitude changed, and she feels that, he's being immature, he's tripping because they're no longer together, right? So she figures that, she accuses Teddy of sending this little note, messing with her because she's moved on. And they also revealed that the driver of the truck, his name is Sam Cooper, which I will get to because everything, and I'm only, again, when I'm doing these spoilers, I'm only pointing out the significant parts. So Sam Cooper was the driver that met his demise off the cliffside. So they start talking, and Milo, Stevie, and Ava, they locate Teddy on his yacht and confront him about the note. And Teddy is kind of surprised to see him up until the questioning, and he's like, "Man, y'all get the F on." Like he ain't really feeling it, right? And he explains, his stance with Danica, but as far as the note, he's like, he ain't really feeling it, and and he immediately is on the defensive because because they kept the pack, and he wasn't trying to it's like he ain't trying to have that thrown back in his face, that whole entire situation. And they're quite aware. He reveals, his dad's position and the cover up, and they're quite aware of the situation. And he takes his stance and like, get the F off my boat. So after that scene, um we go back to Ava, not Ava. Yeah, so after that scene, we immediately go back to Wyatt and Danica, back at Danica's house. And Danica decides she wants to take a bath. She wants to have a cowgirl moment. She wants to release. She wants to decompress. And Wyatt is downstairs, you know, having a party of one. Doing happy hour, drinking up all the cheap peanut. I ain't gonna mess up the wine names, but Peanut Grigio, whatever that is, or Chardonnay. That he downstairs drinking up the bottle, and he's distracted by the backyard, the sensor lights, the motion lights light up the pool, and it's like pitch black, from this scene, and he's looking out. So it's pretty much the scene what you saw in the trailers, and he's looking out the window. I mean the backyard, the pool side, and the lights are on, and then they go off, and he has a feeling that somebody is out there, or he hears something, and so pretty much he is struck by a harpoon, like the spear hits him in his chest, and it is reeling him into the dark, to the back, and the spear comes out of him, and then he makes it up on his feet, and he is struck again by another shot to his gut, and he is reeled closer to the patio door, the back door, which the fisherman reveals himself, and he takes the hook out, and Wyatt meets his demise. So after Danica gets finished with her cowgirl moment, for my OGs out there who were born in the 70s and grew up in the 80s, uh, you know what I'm talking about with the cowgirl moment. After she decompresses, she comes from the bathroom. She goes downstairs and discovers Wyatt's body. He's propped up on some type of MacGyver makeshift this pedestal. So we cut to the next scene where she's consoled by Ava, and Danica's, consoled by Ava, and so now they're, trying to figure out what's going on, and Ava, um, at this point, it cuts to the next scene where she meets up with Tyler after after Ava, is trying to console Danica. Um, the next scene, she meets up with Tyler, and they're at this abandoned building, this facility, and Tyler picks up her phone. Ava picks up her phone, and she sends like this. She sets up this alert text message, as a just in case something happens. Somebody will find the message and they will know where she is. She sets up her location. She sets all this up to this alert text message, and Tyler comes out, and Tyler, this is a part of Tyler's researching her investigative journalism for her podcast show, which the place is revealed where Helen was killed, which called back to the first I Know What You Did Last Summer. So Helen, so she talks to Ava and gives her this little fun fact moment inside this abandoned um event area. This like looks like a restaurant. This little place. So Tyler walks off, and Ava's just standing around waiting for Tyler. And she turns around, she sees the fisherman, and she thinks that Tyler's messing around, but Tyler shows up atop the stairs, and the fisherman attacks Ava. Ava tells Tyler to run. Tyler is looking for a way of escape, while Ava is confronted by the fisherman. During the encounter, Ava manages to injure the fisherman. She uses a butcher knife and she cuts him. She cuts his arm. She manages to escape the attack by locking herself in some type of pantry, some type of closet. And the fisherman, she looks around through this little window, and the fisherman is gone. So there's a moment, she comes out, and and in that moment, I'm like, she should have. And I get it. It's a moment. She could have stayed in the fight. But like I said, it's a moment. She got him real good in the arm. She locks herself up in this pantry or this closet, and the fisherman, he disappears. And Ava gets out, and she's looking for him. Tyler meets back up with Ava, and this cage just drops out of nowhere. This fishing cage just drops out of nowhere, and it traps Ava. It drops from the ceiling. The fisherman returns, and now the fisherman is trying to kill Tyler. Tyler makes an attempt to escape through this dumb waiter, this small little elevator, and the fisherman tries to catch her, and he catches up with her on the second floor. Stevie shows up, and she hears the commotion from inside. She's banging on the door, but the door is locked. So Ava makes her way. She manages to escape from this cage, and she makes her way to the door to let Stevie in. So by the time she got to the door to let Stevie in, Tyler is thrown. She's strangled and thrown from the top floor through a glass, where she's hanging from the neck. She's dangling, and Stevie and Ava see her hanging, and she dies. Tyler dies, and they see her hanging outside of this facility, this building. So the next scene, um, the police, they're there with the ambulance, and they want the police to help, but the police are reluctant. They don't want to believe. They don't want to pretty much feed or entertain that situation, and especially Grant's position. And if you think about the scene is kind of a reminder of for anybody that's seen Jaws, the very first one. There's always somebody trying to protect the town's reputation, right? It's that little thing. They don't want they don't want the massacre. They don't want these incidents to be leaking out, because they want the tourists to come by and appreciate just the history of this little town of Southport. So that scene right there kind of reminds me of Jaws, where Roy Scheider, he plays the chief, and he's trying to convince the mayor that, hey, we need to take precaution or set up some type of security measures for the beach because there's a shark. Same thing. This group, they want the help of the police, but Grant is like intervening into the situation where he doesn't want the police he's trying to keep the police or prevent the police from getting from getting further involved with investigating this situation. So now they're just left to try to figure some things out. And thanks to Teddy. So so continuing, um, they decide to locate Julie. So the next scene, Julie, they decide to go for Julie to help because is she's the survivor of the massacre that happened in '97. And the next scene, they go to Julie, and Julie is this college professor. She's talking about trauma, mental health, whatever the study is. And she has this saying where she says, "If you don't deal with the trauma deals with you." End quote. That's that's pretty much a saying that's going to be thrown around like the previous Halloween film, "Evil Dies Tonight." This everybody has a little tagline or a little saying in these films. So if you don't deal with the trauma's going to deal with you. There is some significance to that. So Stevie talks to Ava. No, not Ava. I'm sorry, Julie. Ava runs into Julie. Julie's a college professor, teacher, and the scene shows her talking about mental health and trauma. And so when she's done with that, Ava runs into Julie, and she's like, "Hey, I need help. I got I got a similar incident, just like what you had in the past." And she's like, I need some help. They're back at Julie's place, and she's, in the living room looking at old school pictures, and then you see the original actors, a picture of Ryan Phillippe's character from I know the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, along with Sarah Michelle Gellar and um, Jennifer Love Hewitt. Um, so Jolie, makes little remarks about her Ava snooping around. So they get to talking, and Jolie is like reluctant. She ain't trying to be involved. She ain't trying to go back to the town. She done with all that, and she's trying to leave it in the past because um, you can tell just by their interaction, she's expressing how how you know, what she went through, how it affected her, and pretty much it's like, nah, but I'm gonna tell you this. So she tells Ava that her situation, basically there's a personal connection with the person, the killer has a personal connection with whoever was driving the car. And that's all she leaves her with. And she leaves it up to her, like in so many words, like, y'all need to investigate um, what the connection is between the killer and the person that died in a car accident. So we go into the next scene where Julie um, we go into the next scene after Julie talks to Ava. There's a town meeting, and the people, are expressing their concerns with the recent killings and how they're related. People are having their, you know, um, people are expressing their concerns to the recent killings, and now they're worried about reliving, what happened in 1997. And the mayor, not the mayor, but Grant, and you see the chief of police, they're trying to play damage control, trying to assure the crowd, look, it's a hoax. They trying to win the crowd over. They trying to play damage control, and so that they can keep they can protect the reputation of this town, a Southport, because they got tourists coming and they still got people visiting. They wanna maintain the namesake of Southport as it being a nice, wholesome town, a good community, a beautiful place for people to come and visit. And that's where you see Ray, Freddie Prinze Jr. Um, and then once again Julie reprising her role. Jennifer Love Hewitt reprising her role as Julie. The next scene, town hall meeting. Freddie Prinze Jr., you see him reprising his role as Ray. So Ray shows up and he's like the standout, right? And he's basically telling them, look, the people need to be concerned. They got a right to feel worried. I went through it. I've experienced this massacre. And we can't just act like none of this never happened. And Grant leans into the chief, like, there's some words, but Ray stands up and like, look, the people are scared. I went through it. I understand what's going on. We just can't act like none of this stuff ain't never happened. And then so that scene cuts from there to Ray meeting the group. They're back at Ray's bar, and you discover that Stevie works for Ray at his bar. Ray is Stevie's boss. And they're rallied up. Stevie figures that maybe Ray can help them. And they have a small little discussion at the bar where Ava pretty much reveals that, she tried to reach out to Julie for help. The next scene, we go to the group splitting up. So Milo, Stevie, and Ava, they go to the scrapyard, the junkyard, to get some information on the truck that Sam was driving. While Danica and Teddy, they go to the cemetery to look for to find any clues, to the victims of the massacre. And I don't understand why they went to the cemetery, but I get it. So while Danica and Teddy are at the cemetery, they see Helen, and Helen, once again, she's the previous character from the original I Know What You Lit Last Summer. She sees Helen, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. There's a picture of her on her tombstone. And Danica, I guess she kind of, because Helen has such a reputation of being the beauty queen, the beauty pageant, and a reputation of that community, Danica pretty much looks up to her. And, Danica is like this. She's a pretty girl, right? She looks up to her. And she notices, Danica and Teddy, they notice Sam's tombstone. And Teddy and Danica have their moment at Helen's tombstone. And then they notice fresh roses. They see fresh flowers put on Sam's tombstone, Sam Cooper. And Danica goes to the cemetery groundskeeper to find out, is there any way he can track the CCTV, the security cameras, to see who left the flowers. So the groundskeeper goes back to check the surveillance camera, and the fisherman kills the groundskeeper. So Danica is standing outside and she sees other people at the cemetery. And for some reason, time speeds up. We quickly go from day to nighttime in a matter of seconds. So Danica is waiting outside for the groundskeeper to come up, to come back out with some compelling news. And she's confronted by the fisherman. And the fisherman, she gives chase to the fisherman, and they wind up in this boiler room, this engineer part of the cemetery. Danica is about to meet her demise, but Teddy saves Danica. The fisherman runs off. Danica is injured by the fisherman. So Teddy does the Goldberg spear. He does the shoulder tackle. And the fisherman gets up and he runs off. The fisherman runs away. Um, Back to the other scene. While that was going on with them being at the cemetery, though, there's a scene that cuts back to before the fisherman attacks Danica. The scene basically cuts back to Milo, Stevie, and Ava at the scrapyard, which they find that the person who owns the truck is Pastor Judah. Pastor Judah is the owner of the pickup truck. So immediately after Teddy rescues Danica, we go back to the next scene where Ray visits Julie, and it's revealed that they had some type of relationship um, after the events, and they had a falling out. And Ray is like, "Look, with the recent events that transpired, I just came by to check on you." And Julie, she ain't living nowhere near Southport, so she's like, "All right, you ain't really come here to check on me." And they start having their moment. So Ray goes off, and Ray is like fussing at Julie. Why would you tell her to go back and address this situation with the fishermen attacking them? Why would you send her on this suicide mission, as he says? And they go back and forth. They start taking jabs at each other, where he makes a statement like, you love to hang out with people that are troublemakers. And she throws a dart at him, and once again, they're throwing things. They keep taking little jabs at each other, throwing these incidents back and forth in each other's faces. And, reminding each other of, that, each of them are trying to have their own way with dealing with trauma. And Julie goes attacking Ray. Ray attacks Julie. It's just a little moment where they're discussing how what they have experienced, how they're affected, and the aftermath of it, of them trying to move on from this terrible experience that they had in '97. So that's a little moment that you try, that the scene tries to capture your attention, or tries to allow you to embrace that little moment between the two. So the discussion between the two is interrupted by a phone call. Ray receives a phone call from Stevie, and Julie receives a phone call from Ava. So we go to the next scene where Danica thinks it's a good idea for the group to stay at her house, and for safety precautions. They don't need to be separated. Danica feels that we all should just stay together at my place. So Stevie gets a phone call, and she's like, I gotta go back to work. So Stevie rolls out. So now it's just Danica, Teddy, Milo, and Ava. And Milo and Ava, they go off into another room of the house, a separate room of the house, to have their moment. Danica, you see Danica, Teddy embracing Danica, and they start having their moment. So Milo and Ava, they start making out, and they getting into the foreplay. And before Milo can start shooting up the club, he abruptly stops. Ava wants some dirty play. She wants some dirty action. She like throwing the hand around the throat. She want to be done dirty. And Milo just stops. And my man just gets up and goes outside. Like, I don't even know what happened at that moment. And with the mumbling, I thought it had something to do with maybe the incident with he's recalling back to the incident that she had with making out with Tyler, literally with Tyler and Ava making out, and they're just meeting each other on day one, and they just make out. So I'm thinking that maybe that has something to do with Ava meeting Tyler. He just stops in the middle of the foreplay and leaves. He goes outside, and he just sitting in his car. And I don't know what's going on with him, but he's like, "Dad, in so many words, why am I acting like that?" Right? Being, I'm not sure if he's nervous, he's shook. I don't know what I can't figure out what's going on with that scene, but I get it. It's necessary. It's something that just has to happen in that movie at that moment, right? So this scene sets up for the next kill. Milo is locked out of the house, and the fisherman shows up and strangles Milo to death. He kills Milo, throws him in the back of his little SUV, and Ava is calling his phone. The fisherman sends a text in so many words. I just want to be alone right now. It's not your time. I'll holler at you tomorrow. I'm sorry that I just left. Something along that, along the lines of that. Just an excuse to get away from her. The killer fisherman drives off. Milo's dead body in the backseat. He's leaving the property. The next scene, we get into and this scene, the next scene with Danica and Ava is kind of weird because like you don't really get a moment like when Danica was attacked by the fisherman. Okay, Ava is consoling her. You got that moment, but the moment is not returned when Ava loses Milo. Like you don't get to see that or embrace that little moment because we immediately go to Danica and Ava decide to do their thing. They're digging. They go to Judah's church. Judah's a pastor, and they go to his church to find out what the connection is between the two, between why Sam had Judah's truck. So they go there to investigate why what that connection is all about. And Ava is the distraction while Danica goes snooping around in Judah's office. And Pastor Judah shows up, and she's like, "Hey, I need some help. I'm going through it." She's just throwing something out there to try to drag out the situation so Danica can do some snooping. And Danica finds Judah's diary, his little journal, where he has scripture notes, but he sees a picture, an obituary, and she sees some pictures of Judah and Sam. Like, they buddies. It ain't no intimate pictures or nothing like that. They just, they real good friends. They like BFFs, kind of like brothers. But they're really good friends. And she sees pictures of them two in the journal, and she discovers that Sam and Pastor Judah, they're friends, they're buddies. And so Judah leaves Ava, and Ava is texting Danica like, Judah is on his way to the office, and Danica goes hide. She hides in the confession booth, and Judah finds his journal, his little diary open, and it's a little edgy moment where you think Danica's gonna get caught, but he closes the book up and then he grabs a brochure for Ava, and so Ava and Danica, they reconnect, revealing that Sam worked at the church and he was a part of the rehab group doing work with he did some work with Pastor Judah. They were together. So they rush to the police station and they're quick to assume that Judah, Pastor Judah, is the fisherman. So they make so with these allegations, they go tell the police, they go tell the chief that, hey, we have a suspect who's behind the recent killings, who's this person who's the fisherman, and it's Pastor Judah. Y'all got to look into it. Sam was driving his car when it went off the cliff. And then all of a sudden, a year later, people are dying. So they're trying to convince the chief. They're trying to convince him that um, that Pastor Judah is a part of the killings, and he needs to look into it. So, he tells the girls, Ava and Danica, y'all sit tight. I'll be right back. The chief makes a phone call to Grant, Teddy's dad, and he tells Grant that Ava and Danica, they snooping around, they digging, and Grant is like, "Look, we don't need no more of this drama." He's trying to protect the it's like he wants to bury or sweep this massacre stuff under the rug, and he tells the chief, you know, hold them overnight, detain them, keep them in a cell overnight. Like I've had enough of this massacre talk. He had enough of them, and so the officers um, detain Ava and Danica, and they throw them in this interview room. They lock them up in this interview room, and we go to the next scene where Teddy is chilling at his mansion, and Teddy is chilling, and he is he's in his sauna. He comes out. He's well relaxed and everything. He's just walking around his property, and he sees a silhouette far off in the distance. Two silhouettes, and he walks up to it, and it's revealed that it's a statue, but it's out of focus in the background. But however, the other silhouette moves, revealing the fisherman. So Teddy stands his ground, and he gets stabbed in the back. After walking away, the fisherman is revealed. So now Teddy gets up after being stabbed, and I mean he's standing his ground, and he's giving it to the fisherman. Teddy a little swole, but he giving it to the fisherman. He's stocky and he giving it to him. But the with Teddy then took way too many cuts to the body, and he's losing blood. So now he's staggering, trying to go up the steps to alert I guess some chick he got, dancing off in one of the bedrooms, and his father is somewhere about the house, the mansion, and he's trying to alert somebody, one of them, to the house that he's in danger. The fisherman shows up and finishes the job with the stabbing. Grant, Teddy's dad, comes out of the house and finds Teddy on the doorstep, bleeding to death. And as soon as he gets on his knees, like within a matter of seconds, he picks him up, and he's trying to, get a response out of Teddy, out of his son. The fisherman stabs Grant. So now father and son, they both stabbed up in front of the house. So now we cut back to another scene where Danica, it's a dream sequence. It's a dream scene, and Danica is having a nightmare, and which you see Sarah Michelle Gellar, her cameo appearance, reprising the role as Helen, and she's it's that same scene from the original scene before she met her demise in the '97 version of the movie. She's in the same beauty pageant outfit, the same outfit, and the tiara, and Wyatt is laid dead in the background, laid out on the stage. And there's little discussion about, trauma and her experience, and she makes little comments about her following about Danica following in her footsteps. This is a dream sequence, nightmare sequence, and for some reason, but it's necessary. It is necessary. Why do we have this? But it's necessary. It's just thrown in there for some reason. And throughout the film, and I'm gonna get back to it, but this nightmare sequence she has, and her skin changes. It's supposed to be a little scary moment. Danica wakes up. Ava's looking outside the office, the interview office where they're detained at, and she sees all the police just freaking out. Everybody's rushing out, right? At this, like I said, time flies in a matter of seconds. It's broad daylight. It's broad daylight. One of the officers tells Ava and Danica, y'all free to go. Y'all can leave. So they discover the next scene. They follow the police, and somehow they're led to follow the police to this pier, the harbor, and they see, which is revealed. You see Grant and Teddy. Teddy and his dad. They're hanging off of this this scaffold, this platform. They're hanging, just dangling upside down, and their bodies are dismembered. Like they're just chopped. They're all chopped up, just dangling, just hanging in just pieces of them, just hanging out in public. And Ava and Danica, they freaking out. And and pretty much the town is rallied up. The police are like, all right, everybody back up. So at this point, um, they're worried about being the suspects because they're kind of regretting going to the police for help, and they meet up with Stevie. Ray is there, and it's like, dag, it was a waste of time going to the police for help. And they're like, they were detained, they got freed, so now they're like, it's a possibility that we can be the suspects, and they might be coming for them. So Ray tells the girls, look, y'all just need to get out of here. Y'all need to go somewhere and lay low. Y'all going to have to roll. And so off in the distance, Ava notices Milo's car, his truck, parked at the pier. And they discovered the door is unlocked. They just open the door and they see Milo's dead body in the back seat, strangled to death. My man is blue in the face like a Smurf. In fact, they looking like a Smurf in the back seat, looking like one of the Avatar characters, right? So they get on a boat. Stevie has she has access to this boat, and Ava, Stevie, and Danica, they get on this yacht. They get on this boat, and they're just off out in the water. Ava is just chilling. Danica is somewhere on a boat trying to, I don't know, whatever she does on her spare time. And the fisherman appears and takes a swing at Ava and misses. So the fisherman is standing there, and this individual reveals to be Stevie, takes off all the gear, and it is revealed that Stevie is the fisherman. And Stevie, her motive for killing, for coming for everybody, was because that when she found out that Sam was the driver of the pickup truck, like she didn't know. But once she found out that Sam Cooper was the driver, Stevie reveals that her and Sam were friends. They were in a relationship. And she met Sam in rehab because Sam was a part of this church. He's a part of the outreach committee of this church with Judah. And while Sam was in rehab, while Stevie was in rehab, Sam and Stevie got close. Sam was checking on Stevie, and Sam just he was pretty much, it got to the point where they got close and they connected. Um, Sam was the reason for her leaving rehab. And she quickly recovered because she fell in love with Sam, and she somehow found solace. She found a way to have a new beginning because of her troubled past, with her, due to her family upbringing and wanting to be close around and connect with people. So when that was taken away from her, that was basically her motive. And with them letting Sam fall to his demise, she felt she took it as a betrayal, as them not, at that moment, not doing anything that they could have to help save Sam at that moment. And so that's pretty much her motivation. And like, Shorty is hysterical. Um, and Sam was basically the love of her life. And she basically did a whole 180. Stevie did a whole 180, and she was in love. And she felt that one little incident, that nobody made an attempt to do anything. The gang, Ava, and the rest of the group, they took Sam away from her. So that was the motive. So Danica shows up, and she's there, while Stevie is revealing her motives for doing all the killings and stuff, and using the fisherman persona. So Ray shows up, and Danica is held by Stevie, and Stevie stabs Danica, and Danica is thrown overboard. Prior to all of that happening, Ray is trying to talk sense into Stevie, telling Stevie, look, I made a promise to your family. I'm gonna look out for you. Basically, it's revealed that Ray was looking out for Stevie, and apparently Stevie got a job working with Ray. Ray knew Stevie's father, and he took Stevie in. Stevie worked for him while she was trying to get her life together. These things were going on while she was in rehab. Stevie was working for him, and Ray is like, look, I know we got problems, and I get it. You're hurt. You should have came to me for help. And Ray is holding a gun, and he's trying to talk sense into Stevie, but Stevie at this point is like, the damage is already done. She stabs Danica and throws her overboard, and Ray shoots Stevie. You don't exactly see where she got shot because the scene flashes and changes so fast. You just see Ray pull the trigger and she goes overboard. So now Ray and Ava, they go back to Ray's bar. Ray is trying to console Ava, trying to tend to her, making sure that she's okay. He takes his shirt off, and Ava is sitting there, and she notices the injury on his arm wrapped up in bandages. And it's the same exact spot that she hit the fisherman when she cut the fisherman at during the early encounter that she had with the fisherman. The same injury, same exact spot. And so in her mind, It's revealed that Ray is an accomplice. Ray was in on it, helping Stevie. So she makes an excuse to try to leave, and the front door is locked. Once again, these little cliche moments. The front door of the bar is locked. She can't even get out. And Ray comes out, says a couple of words, and um, says a few words about trauma, and and he mentions that what they did to Stevie was kind of messed up, but they get into this encounter, and Ava is trying to defend herself against Ray. After, like I say, after Ray starts talking about trauma and how a lot of stuff could have been prevented from with Stevie going off on the deep end. Um, Ray attacks Ava, and Ava is left trying to defend herself. We cut to the next scene with Julie, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Julie, at her home. You can hear the news in the background, and she sits down on her laptop and she's reading some news articles and stuff with Stevie, and she sees a picture of Ray and Stevie together and some other stuff that she's reading. And then another moment, oh my gosh, slams the laptop, and now she's rushing off to Ray's bar because you don't know what she read. She just sees the connection with Ray and Stevie. And I'm going to get back to that in a minute. But she's reading some stuff on the laptop. She shuts it down. She's rushing back to Ray's bar. She shows up, and Ava comes stumbling out from the back of the kitchen. She has a knife in her back and a shoulder blade. And now there's a standoff. Ray comes out, and Ray talks to Julie, and Ray reveals his motive for being involved. And the reason why he got involved is because that he got tired of Grant. Like I said, I don't know what his position is, but he got tired of the authorities, these politicians trying to erase forget what happened in the past. And Ray is so messed up. Ray is like delusional, right? He's like, he thinks it's pretty much the town's, he understands that the town is affected by it, but instead of him helping, or cope like what Julie is doing, to help others who've experienced trauma, who've had a bad experience in the past, instead of helping people um, with moving forward, how to get over it, um, he's messed up. And he thinks it's the town's response. He blames the town, and he thinks it's pretty much like the town's responsibility to address what he's going through, what everybody's going through. And he want to keep this ish going. And so, and then even discovering that Stevie, he's aware of Stevie's situation, her relationship with Sam. They both come up with this plan to extract revenge to use the fisherman persona to extract revenge on Stevie's friends, as well as maintaining fear in the town of Southport. They want to keep this fisherman man myth. They want to keep this stuff alive, pretty much like how people like, it kind of reminds me of Nightmare on Elm Street, where the mayor, everybody, look, it's just best not to say Freddy Krueger's name. We don't say his name around these parts. They want the whole town to forget Freddy Krueger. Pretty much the same thing. They want the town to forget the fisherman incident and the massacre in '97. And Ray is like, nah, we're gonna keep it going. He uses that persona to keep the fear in the town people of Southport. And also they use that to exact pretty much as revenge on Sammy's part. He helps Sammy because he feels it's also messed up that she suffered a loss, and he can relate because he hurting like she hurting. He can relate to her pain, And like I said, instead of helping, um, he assists her with this little revenge plot against her friends because once again it's like realistically there was no way to save Sam. The opportunity was there, but as heavy as that truck was, there was no way to save him. She felt as though even reporting it to the police and keeping a statement or whatever like that, but she feels that her friends took Sam away from her, and pretty much that's it. So they use the fisherman persona. They both work together to one wants to maintain fear in the town of Portsmouth. The other uses the persona um to kill her friends. And that's basically it. Um so Julie, before Ray can finish off Ava, Julie has to have her moment. Just, her old tagline from part one. What are you waiting for? Right? Um, Julie shoots she kills Ray with a spirit gun. He's impaled, he's dead. Ava is saved by Julie. We go to the next scene where um you find that Danica is washed ashore. She's laying on a beach and she's still alive. A civilian, finds her laying on the beach, and we cut to the next scene where Ava and Danica they reunite at a hospital. Um, Ava reveals that Stevie is still alive and she is laid up in the same hospital. Stevie is still alive, and these two they go somewhere. I guess they sitting at a patio porch, food outlet, whatever. They're enjoying a couple of drinks and they're joking around, um, about how they're going to address Stevie. But they start joking and pretty much that's it. And so then we get to the next scene where it's an end credit scene where you see Carla. Brandy has a cameo appearance and she is watching the news with her husband, and the news talks about the massacre of Southport, all the killings. You discover on the news that Ray um, is like the primary suspect of all the killings of Southport, and it is revealed that Ray and Julie they were once married but divorced. So Carla, Brandy's character, her husband's off in the background. She gets, the doorbell. She answers the door, and Julie shows up, and she's got a ball cap on. She's incognito, right? And Carla, she's like, what's up? Hey, what's going on? Julie shows a photo of them two together, Carla and Julie. She shows a photo of them two together with and their picture is marked out with a red X. It's like in ink. The picture's crossed out, and she flips the picture over, and it says, "This isn't over." End quote. And so Brandy looks at Julie, and she says, "Who we need to mess up?" And that's the end of that end credit scene. So you have to sit all the way through the end credits to catch Brandy's cameo scene and to get that. So now, here go my nitpicks going back to my cons from my non-spoiler review in my other video. Um, the plot twist is what ruined the movie for me because it pretty much undoes Ray's character, and I get it. This Dark Knight thing, you live, you're a hero long enough, you can be alive long enough to be a villain. This thing with trauma, and I get where they was trying to go for, what they was reaching at. But I just didn't think it was necessary. It could have been another way around that, but and like I said, the pacing for a decent basic story, um, I like that. It's a popcorn flick. I like it. It was something different. I didn't think that it was going to work, but it did work. You know, especially with them trying to bring back a little bit this nostalgia to the film. Um, it seemed like it just defeated the purpose. With Ray being a hero in the previous installments, this third act kind of defeated the purpose for me with the previous installments because he was such a, you know, I liked Ray and he was a good character, and and to see all this happen, like, you know, like I said, on the flip side, I get it, I understand, and it's necessary for a reason, especially with this end credit scene with Julie receiving this picture of herself and Carla, Brandy's character, being crossed out. It sets up another movie. It sets up a sequel. And this nightmare sequence, I don't, you know, it's for some reason it has to be some significance to it. Maybe we'll see what it is in the next installment. If it and is another sequel necessary? Is all of this even necessary? Like, do we have to have these movies where the final girl, you know, we start having these Sarah Connor moments, where the Terminator, we have these genre swaps where we go from sci-fi horror to just now it's all action packed, right? Everybody, Jamie Lee Curtis, uh Neve Campbell, like everybody's reprising their roles, coming back to these movies. And Halloween, Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer. We gotta have these Sarah Connor moments. Everybody, you know, these OGs coming back, having these and I'm glad that it kind of wasn't emphasized that much as, you know, Jennifer, her character having a Sarah Connor moment, and now they kung fu fighting. You know, Julie and Ray, they kung fu fighting in the bar, exchanging blows, throwing knives at each other and stuff. You know, it was a well balanced moment, and it wasn't overwhelmed. It wasn't exaggerated so much. It was just the movie was pretty much just outside of these little stupid cliche moments that you would normally see in these horror movies. The movie was balanced, and it just gave you enough. It made you question some scenes I felt, you know, was unnecessary, but for some reason it's necessary. It may play some significance and have some connection, and they could be addressed and answered in the next if they go forward with another another sequel, because it's kind of messed up if you doing all that work and you have a end credit scene like that. You know, you wouldn't want to just have a cliffhanger like that and just don't address it. Don't, you know, you just suddenly just cut it off and you don't address it. And now it's like, you know, you started it, now we gotta finish the story. So that's pretty much it. Um, if you saw this movie, post comments down below, share your thoughts, what you like, what you didn't like. If it was something in the movie that I missed, I misunderstood, something you didn't agree with, share your comments, share your thoughts. Let's talk about it. Is the movie worth going to see? No, it's not. It's not. It's nothing worth rushing to the movies for. Um, as I stated in my non-spoiler video, you can watch it. You ain't gotta take my word for it. You can watch it, make sense out of it for yourself. But if you're a big horror fan and you want to get caught up with these characters, what they're up to now, and you're a fan of the franchise, and you want to see some good, silly fun out of a horror movie, you want to have some fun. You want to be entertained, you know, with the silliness and the cliche moments. Watch the movie. You can check it out. But other than that, overall, wait for streaming. Wait for streaming. Wait for it to come out on digital. You can watch it in the convenience of your own home. Like I said, if you're a horror fan, you like the franchise, you're familiar with it, you love these characters, you enjoyed the first two installments, you can go check it out. The movie ignores part three, and there is no connection to the TV series reboot. With that being said, for my returning subscribers, thanks for coming back. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for enjoying these videos. I appreciate y'all. New to the channel, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be updated on more content. Until next time, peace.